All right, welcome back to Foreign Sight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Obi. Joining me on another Young Lady edition is someone who I've known for quite a while, another great mind, another great young soul, and we're just going to pick a brand like we always do. Without further ado, welcome in Jessica Leonard. How are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Can't complain. Just another day. All right. So where I always like to start off is just a bit of background. So just for the people who are listening to you for the first time, just give a bit of a summary as far as who is Jessica Leonard is and what you do.
Well, currently I am 24-year-old, just living life at the moment. Just graduated not too long ago from college. Now I'm a medical assistant living in New Orleans and seeing where life takes me at this point.
That Nola baby, I already know.
Nola baby.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And so, yeah, congrats on graduating. I know we haven't really been able to chop it up fully on that, but definitely big step into your future. So, proud of you.
Appreciate you. Same to you.
For
Of
sure.
course.
Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and start with your upbringing and just give a bit of background. So, Alabama roots. I know you have a lot of family out there in Alabama and in that area, and that's played a big factor as far as who you are as a person. So, just talk about that first off.
Oh yeah. So my whole mom's side is from Mobile, Alabama, and been going to Bama really my whole life. It was about about a 2.5 hour drive from where we used to live in Louisiana. So any holiday or whatever celebration, we were there and spending a lot of time with my grandma, my two aunts. Honestly, as many times as I've been to Alabama, I don't know much about it just because I only really go to visit family. And that's all we really do when we're down there. But it's beautiful, nice little country towns, quiet. And really just hang out with my cousins all the time when I go down there. So it's always been real fun. I would spend all my whole summers out there whenever I was a kid. So that was sometimes good, sometimes bad. But yeah.
All right, that small town Alabama vibe, why was it bad? Because I got to ask.
Because there's nothing to do. And when you're a kid and you're bored, you're like 7, 8 years old, and it's you and your couple cousins and y'all don't have nothing to do. It's just like, okay, we're just looking at each other. You can't stay, that's back when we didn't have iPads and stuff. So we were outside playing tag and stuff like that. It was just a different experience.
You gotta get creative with the type of trouble you get yourself into.
Definitely do. We used to make popsicles and stuff like that for fun.
So then from Alabama, you guys moved to Houston, and that's where you grew up. That's where I meet you. So talk about what it was like growing up in H-Town and how that was different from, the southern small town Alabama vibes too.
Oh yeah. That was a big change, especially living in Louisiana as well. I could just notice the vibes were just different as far as like, I don't know, the people were just different. Even as a kid, I could just notice like people aren't as friendly or whatever. So moving down here kind of was like a culture shock. And I was just like, oh wow, like people don't talk to you. But it just opened my eyes to so many different opportunities because being from like a small town, you just don't see a lot of things. I was very sheltered growing up. I didn't know a lot of stuff. So it was just like, oh, that's what that is. Or, oh, you can do that. Like, oh, what is that? And so it just kind of was like a opportunity for me to grow and just expand my mind and be open-minded about a whole bunch of different things. And it didn't just keep me like in that one same category as far as just like, this is where I'm from, this is what I'm going to do. It was just like, oh, I can go here and I can venture off and do there. So it was a good experience. And living in Houston is honestly somewhere where I would love to stay, even though I'm in New Orleans right now. I still love the city and it's just good vibes out there. So
Nah, yeah, I could speak on that too because it's like I've talked about before where I grew up. And my part of Houston was kind of the small town vibes, not necessarily a Mobile, but it was, small. Everybody kind of knew each other, that like a Varsity Blues type of feel, that movie. And then, you move over to suburban, part of town, and it's like completely different culture shock. People are allowed to kind of do what they want. Like, it was crazy to me when I used to like hang with people and they would just be like, oh, I'm going here, and don't even got to tell your people nothing. Like, it was, I grew up in a house where it's like, if you wanted, even like, let's say you wanted to go in the kitchen and get something to eat, you want to go get a popsicle, I had to call my mom's at work and be like, Mom, is it okay if I could get something to eat out
Me
the
too.
freezer?
Me too.
So from going from that to now, it's like people literally could just be like, oh, I'm going to such and such's house, and I don't even really got to tell my mom's, or even if I do tell my parents, it's like they'll just call where you at, and then that's it. And I remember even playing football and like hanging with teammates and stuff. Like, the guys would be like, oh, we're going here, are you coming? I'm like, I gotta ask my people first.
Let me call.
Yeah, right. And then people that, like, they would look at me, so like they'd be like, bro, why? Like, we're just gonna be here. What's the big deal? I'm like, nah, it don't go like that. And I'm African too, so it's like, what you gonna tell your Nigerian parents that, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be somewhere without them? No, oh no, nope.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Deal with that
My
bubble.
parents were the same. Like, if I was telling them like, hey, we're going to see a movie, and they're like, okay, and we go see a movie and we go to the mall, even though the mall and the movies are right next to each other, I better be calling my mom, telling her I'm at the mall now. Like, So I get that 100%.
For sure. But I mean, and see, the thing is, like, seeing both sides of it, like, I get where, both like mindsets come from, like from a small town like family where you don't really know what's going on, or like everybody kind of knows everyone. And like, my parents are from Africa, they're from Nigeria, and they live by the motto, it takes a village. So everybody knows where everybody is at all times, right? And so for them not to know where you are, it's kind of can cause a bit of stress, as opposed to, you move here where it's a little bit more suburban, people kind of are more free to do what they want. So there's a little bit more trust established. And so, I could kind of see both sides. And as I, got older and started explaining that to my people, they kind of let the leash off a little bit, especially me proving, how I was, responsible. I never really got into trouble. So it was all about adapting and evolving and growing, as you talked about.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. Even then, it was just kind of like, even when you're older, so like, hey, is it still okay if I go here?
Yeah, like you, even as an adult, you go back home, it's like you still got to kind of tell your parents, like, I'm gonna be going here and I'm gonna be back at this time, or I might come back in the morning. Like, just that courtesy is still always there. That don't never go away. Because there are some who are thinking, hey, I'm grown, I can do what I want. Nah, you ain't grown until you're out the house, until you're paying your own bills, or as long as you're in my house. As long as you're in my house, baby, ain't happening. So yeah, for sure.
No, I agree. That's how it is for us too. Even then, the only reason why my mom doesn't manage me that much is because I moved out. So, but when I was at home, oh yeah, it's calling me, where you at, what you doing, why you didn't tell me where you were going. I'm just like, oh, yep, messed up, forgot.
Mom, I was next door. I was just getting a popsicle, god dang it.
Right. I could be checking the mailbox down the street and my mom's like, oh no, you need to let me know. So I'm like, oh, I get it, especially like with everything going on nowadays.
Thanks.
You need to be knowing where your kids are at, even if they are grown.
Yeah. And just like last point on it, like, I remember it all made sense to me when we went to Africa the first time. And I remember we were at my grandfather's house and I was with my cousin. There was a shop outside of his compound that they always went to. And I went without telling my people. And so then when we came back, they were like, so you went and didn't tell anybody? Up to 10 people did not even know where you were. You could have been swiped, people kidnapped here. And then there is no security. There's no calling anyone. There's no calling police. I was like, okay, all right, I get it.
Right.
So
I'm like, okay, let me not mess up again.
right.
Oh yeah, I could only imagine, how that went for you.
For sure. But just transitioning now, getting into your sports. So I was an athlete as well as you. You know, you played volleyball for some time. So
Yeah.
talk about what that experience was like for you, how you got into that.
Oh man, volleyball was awesome. I really didn't even get introduced to it till I was in about like fifth grade. I didn't even know what the sport was. Like that's how sheltered I was as a kid. Anyways, so once I got introduced, I kind of fell in love with it. And ever since then I started playing like at my school, and then we ventured off because my sister as well played with me for a while.
Mhm.
And we ventured off to playing outside of school, and then for a while we were playing on the same teams. And so it was kind of like, it was great because not only was it fun, but me and my sister, like, we got to work together, and that's just like a different kind of bond you can have with your sibling. Like, y'all get to play a sport together. It's just pretty cool. And so everything was going good. And so I want to say I played from about sixth grade until I was a junior in high school. And that just it went south really fast. I got injured, and
Mm.
I remember I had like what happened, I had like really bad lung inflammation, so I couldn't like run and stuff. So I ended up not making the team my senior year, and that was just like the most devastating thing for me.
Mm.
Or was it my junior year? I don't even remember. But it was pretty bad. And because I had just like when you're an athlete, you just build your whole life around the sport when you're young. And so it felt like I lost like a piece of myself. But ultimately it helped me grow, and I just had to learn, because even once I didn't make it, my sister made it. That also was kind of like, we lost that bond at that point too. So it was just like a big loss in my life. And it was hard, like watching her kind of live what I wanted to do.
Mm.
But at the same time, once I got through it just kind of like was an eye opener, and just helped me get through other parts of my life. Because if you can, having to be like an athlete and just almost kind of like retiring, or like giving up your career, I don't think people realize that like it's a big part of you, especially like when you're a high school athlete, college athlete, and you don't do it anymore. It's just like, all right, what do I do now?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. No, yeah, I can definitely agree. I could speak on it. Like, I remember when it turned out that I wasn't gonna play football anymore, it was like, what do I do now? Like, I don't like really know. Like that, no, most people don't have it set in their mind of like not playing or quitting or even
Mm-hmm.
retiring. For pro athletes, like everything has been geared towards playing the next, snap, getting to the next level. And so then whenever it turns out like, oh yeah, it's done, you're just like, you're lost. Like you're just like, okay, well, like people would ask, what are you interested in outside of football? I'm like, I'm
I
like,
don't know.
I'm sure I'm
Like,
interested in other things, but it's like, yeah, asking me like to think about a big part of me being gone. That's really true. Like that void is just left there. And people really do struggle to find something else to fill it, because there's nothing like being able to have something where you can kind of peak your competitive side, and you really can see yourself grow. You can see yourself getting better, tangibly. I think is the main thing with sports, and especially us, living here in the South and in Texas, especially, like where sports almost become like a religion. It's like a part of
mm-hmm.
everything. It's a part of your culture. It's a part of the way people think, the way people walk. It's like, for that just to be gone, it's like, okay, what do we do now? And so I definitely can agree to I can agree to that. Now for you, I know you talked about your sister Sydney, and you guys kind of having volleyball as something to keep y'all bonded. And then just while y'all were playing together, was there like a lot of competitiveness? What was it like being on the same team with her? Were y'all competitive with one another? Were y'all
Mm.
sort of in tandem competitive against the competition? Just what was that like?
You know what? It never was an issue with us. Surprisingly, we it was almost like we worked together to build each other up,
Mm.
instead of like, oh, I'm gonna beat you at this, I'm gonna beat you at that. It was never like competitive wise. It was like, we get to smash this together. Like, we're in this together. And I love that, because when we were growing up, we fought so bad. we used to fight. We're so close in age. We're only a year and a half apart. So whenever we were finally at an age to where we were just like, okay, we see the bigger idea, we see the bigger picture, it helped us. And ever since we got into sports together, we never really fought anymore. And it was great, and so it was like a big step up in our relationship. Actually, we used to work out together, we used to practice together, do more things together. And instead of like that mindset when we were younger, where it was like, well, I'm better than you, I'm older than you, it was kind of like, we reached a point to where we were kind of the same size, kind of the same weight. Like, it was like, all right, we can either help each other or we're going to hurt each other. And so that's how it goes. So when we ended up playing like a couple of seasons together. I know we played like on junior varsity together, and then we played a couple of outside of school seasons together. And then we used to travel and do volleyball together. So we did everything. And it was just a great experience, to be honest, because it was like almost having like a twin, like your best friend. You get to just, do everything with them. But we had our moments, because sometimes she would get more playtime than me, and other times I would get more playtime than her. And it was just like, well, dang,
Nah.
Yeah.
It's all beautiful though, just being able to see siblings kind of come together and have something that bonds them. I remember, we used to have a little inside joke like, oh yeah, y'all little twins, and then it was like, oh no,
yeah, we used to look
exactly.
identical.
And then it was like, nah, Jesse's older. I'm like, but y'all look the exact same, yo. Like,
Yep.
so when it turned out that you weren't playing anymore, but she was, how did you kind of navigate that heartbreak or that kind of adversity? Like, what did you do to sort of not let it eat away at you? Because I think that's a big thing for a lot of people where, maybe that bond is severed and they don't know how to really navigate it. So how did you go about it?
Oh yeah, I went about it the whole wrong way. I was very depressed, honestly. It took a good while for me to just kind of like accept it. I think the best thing for me was just acceptance. Like, it was like, it's not going to change. You just have to accept it and be able to be sad about it, but also like, don't dwell over it.
Facts.
And once I just realized, I shouldn't be mad that she got to do it and I don't, it was more so like, be thankful and be out there and support her regardless of, my situation. So I feel like it helped me grow as a person and just, allow me to be like, okay, this part's gone, but we can either keep being sad about it or do something about it. And so at that point, I kind of realized it was like, okay, I can make this an opportunity. And I think that's a good thing that people should do. Instead of being so upset that they lost a chapter, be happy that you're opening a new chapter. So that's what I ended up doing. And I tried to like get a new hobby and start doing other things to kind of fill that void, because I feel like a lot of people don't realize whenever you lose the sport, you kind of lose friends with it too. You lose your lifestyle, your schedule. So it was just, I felt like I was a mess for a while. And then once, you start learning your way, doing new things, it was just like, okay, I can kind of get with this. And I was like, I'm kind of less stressed. I don't have not as much to do. I get more free time. So I just tried to turn my negatives into positives, and that ended up working out for me. It took a while though.
I love that
took
though.
a while.
No, I love that though, because you're absolutely right. That finding how to balance that and finding the good even into what, might appear bad in the moment, is something that not everybody can kind of figure out initially. And I think it does take steps in a process and finding something new to kind of transition and give your energy to. I remember, like, for me, when football was done, I like literally, no, I don't want to say lost, but it was just like, okay, there's this competitiveness and I felt like I had a lot of game left. So what do you do now? Or how do you use what you learned too? Because it's all that knowledge, all that stuff that you learn from the sport. Okay, how do you now, use it for good, or how can you translate it? For me, what it was like, okay, In terms of competitiveness, I tried a bunch of different things. Like I tried jujitsu for a while as far as
Oh
athletics.
yeah.
I tried powerlifting, I tried bodybuilding, and I still do all those things kind of. They're
Hmm.
all fun. So I was like, okay, there's where the competitiveness can come. And then as far as the knowledge I gained, I always felt that it was kind of your responsibility as an athlete to pass it down, to younger athletes who may be going through some of the things that you went through, right?
Hmm.
Because everybody really could, you can never have too many coaches, you can never have too many teachers. I know part of what helped me be successful were the people who, gave me their energy. So I'm like, okay, you can use that by just trying to mentor as many youngsters as you can. Part of what I do now, I go out and I speak to whomever asks me for advice, even with powerlifting. So, as long as you're taking what you did and taking the knowledge you gained and using it for good, I think you'll always be tied and connected to whatever you do.
Oh yeah. You said it beautifully. Yeah, I've seen you out there and I was like, oh, look at him. He's doing awesome. He's giving back. And I think that's something that even I wish I could do more of. I think that's awesome that you're able to give back that knowledge and kind of feel that, keep that part of you still in your life. I do wish I was able to do some of those types of things because I feel like once I stopped playing volleyball, that kind of ended a chapter
Yeah.
in my life and I wasn't associated with it at all. But I really like what you do. I think that's amazing. I wish I could do that in more ways.
No, I appreciate it. And I think anybody can, I think that's one of the things I advocate for is like with this,
Yeah.
with the podcast is that everybody does have a different story to give and everybody has something that they can kind of tell. Right. So that's why I just try to give everyone a chance to kind of tell their story. And hopefully, we can reach one person and one person can listen to it and kind of take it and be like, okay, I didn't know that before, or that makes sense, or I can relate to that, or that resonates with me. Then,
Mhm.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with this. Because I had people like, aside from my direct family, it was like people like Coach Kovo, who was really big.
Yeah.
My boys, Chris, Alex, a bunch of my older friends who like really had the patience to deal with a young knucklehead. Because I was stubborn and young and immature, and they were like, and they really really made sure to like, and my boy Trey too, like they were like, no, we're not gonna give up on them because there's a lot of potential there. They used to always tell me like, bro, you don't know what you're capable of and you won't understand it now, but just keep on staying the course. And so now I sort of get it. It's like, okay, now that I've learned this and it's making sense to me, let me help all the dudes who were where I was. And it's kind of, it's funny, and it's like, dang, these fools really were right, because it's a lot
Yep.
of these dudes like some of the guys I mentor now. I'm like, bro, I was you all these years ago. I'm telling you what I wish I would have known at this age, bro. So, or a young lady too, because I help anybody who reaches out to me. So as long as I can keep on growing and helping others, that's all I've ever wanted to do out of life.
That's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. You never know. It could be something as little as just one sentence that sticks with people.
Thanks.
And I think that's awesome, because being in high school versus what, like being 16, 17 years old versus our age now, like 24, 25. It's a big difference,
Very.
a huge difference. And I didn't understand that at the time. So I was like, oh, that's only like what, 6 years? But I was just like, no, that's like what is it, like a true, like a baby adult
Yeah.
versus almost a full grown adult. Like, even then I still consider myself not like a actual fully adult in certain ways.
Right.
And you can just take anything and just use that knowledge and grow, and that's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's like we're like your 20s. I feel like it's just a time where it's like you're given the responsibilities as an adult, but you have still the mindset of like a young kid or a youngster, if you
Yep.
will, where you're still trying to figure things out. And I
Hmm.
think the one thing is like people really just have to humble themselves as far as just understanding like you don't know everything. So try to seek out as many mentors as you can and people who've done it before you. I'm very big
Hmm.
on that. And then like you're right, like I look back at the person who I was at 16, 18. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what were you thinking?
You're like, I was a mess back then and I thought I had it going on.
Right. Facts. And you're just like, there's so much, that is left to be learned. But I think, you kind of appreciate that about the journey. I always kind of say like life is a journey, life is a maze. You're going to go through obstacles and everything. Embrace that aspect of life and, don't see it as such a negative. I think so many people are like, oh my gosh, adversity. I got to go through this. I got to go through that. Like, take that as a good thing because that means it's going to
Oh
lead to
yeah.
growth,
I agree. I try to always, just flip situations around and just be like, you know what, like, just think of it in a positive way, because if you just dwell on the negative, it's just going to be miserable, have a
Facts.
miserable experience, so as
Absolutely.
people ask, like, once I moved out here and everybody was telling everybody like, oh, hey, I'm from Houston, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, why would you move here? And I'm just like, why not?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it goes,
Don't
And
nod
so
it
it's
until you
just,
try it. It's like, yeah, I mean, you move like they always say, moving in your 20s is like a life hack. Like you have to really go to a new surroundings and you're an adult, you have responsibilities and you have to figure things out. But in figuring things out, that's where you really can kind of see what you do know, what you don't know, what you got to fix and what your deficiencies are because you don't got mom and dad there to help you every step of the way.
right. And you can find out what you personally like, what you don't like, how you like to do certain things. Just kind of figure out like who you are as a person aside from mom and dad. You grow up in your household and you see how your parents do things and you decide, okay, do I like the way that those things are being done, or do I want to change the way, those things are being done? Because a lot of times people feel like, oh, well, my parents do it this way, so I need to do it that way. And I realize that is 100% wrong. you
Yeah.
know
Yes.
so it's like, you figure out who you truly are. So that's why I recommend it to everyone to move
Right.
at least once, even if it's just out of your city, or just somewhere different, or just go travel or do something, just experience like life in a different perspective. Open your mind up to things you may never thought you'd even be seeing at all.
Yeah, it'll help you build your own identity and your own sense of purpose and your own sense of self, like way more when you're independent, when you're actually given the keys to your own life and you take the reins. Um, because like you said, when you're in your hometown and when you're somewhere that's familiar, it's easy to get comfortable as
Yeah,
opposed to when you have to get out your comfort zone and you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, you have to figure things out. If you don't, then you're just gonna stay in this lost state. So I agree with that fully.
exactly. I like that line. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Facts.
That is great. I'm gonna use that now.
Facts.
I feel like I've been going through that ever since I moved out, like living in San Antonio and then living in New Orleans now. You just kind of figure out like you just have to, have a way to make ends meet, not always going back to mom and dad. Some people don't have that opportunity, and I was one of them. Sometimes not.
Mm.
So it's just like you just have to get out of your comfort zone and see where it takes you. I like that. I'm gonna use that quote.
So let's stick on that though. So after high school, sports is over. You graduate, and then, like you said, you moved out to San Antonio, where you go to UTSA. So just talk about what that was like, leaving the nest for the first time, especially you being the firstborn, and you kind of having to figure out life for the first time.
Oh man, I felt like I didn't really think about the huge impact on my life it had on me until I like now, like
Mm.
being 18 and just like leaving. Luckily, I didn't move like states. I don't know how people do that, but just yeah, but just moving like 3.5 hours away with no car, no money, no plan, just to go to college and see how it goes, no friends. It's just like, okay. And I feel like I tackled that like a champ, because it was just like, it was a whole experience. You have to figure out how you're going to get your basic necessities. Just like, honestly, just getting food was just hard, stuff like that. And you're just like, okay, I either have to figure out how I'm going to navigate this, or I'm going to fail. And I don't want to report back to mom and dad and be like, hey, I'm not doing good in college. So you start getting creative with ways to do things. And I feel like being 18 and just going out there and taking things head on, I had that exact mindset of just being comfortable with being uncomfortable, putting yourself out there so that you can get the resources that you need to just live your life. And that is just like 100% was my motto the whole time. Whenever I left college, or whenever I left for high school to go to college, I just told I had a little conversation with myself and I said, hey, you're going to have to go out there and put yourself out there to make sure that you get your necessities, whether that be doing things for school wise, making sure like going to tutoring and all kinds of stuff, just finding resources to just help you, help go through that whole process. Because even though both my parents went to college, and I was very thankful that they did, going to college in the 80s was way different than going in I went to college 2016. So my parents couldn't really help me. They were just like, sorry, don't understand what's going on now. So, you just look to other people for help, and it ended up working out some kind of way. Ended up graduating, being in San Antonio was yes, thank you. Being in San Antonio was an experience. I have stories for days, and I just use it as a character builder because, you go through some things, you go through some tough times where you question yourself, like, am I supposed to be here doing this right now? But I'm like, no, if I feel like I'd recommend that to everyone. If you can go to college, go just for the experience. Like, forget even, just things like parties or, parties are always going to be around, but just like being on your own, not knowing what to do, learning how to navigate and get creative with things when you don't have like easy solutions is going to help you later on down life when you have kids, financial problems, all kinds of stuff. I feel like, okay, I have like a mindset of like, instead of just dwell on it, I'm gonna make the best of this and figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, no, that's facts. It's all, I agree with everything 100%, because I always say, like you kind of alluded to, like college now and school now, even, I mean, the education is there and you kind of learn what you can learn, but it's really about, especially college, like you said, character building and kind of learning to grow up. You really don't understand what that means until you are in it and until you're having to figure things out. Like you get plopped on the campus and it's like, look, we got your money. So now if you're going to
Now
pass,
what?
if you're going to pass, that's on you. But either way, we profited no matter what. And that's fine. And so now it's like, okay, how are you going to navigate these 4 years, these 2 years, these 6 years, if you go further? You know what I'm saying? You got to figure all that stuff out on your own, because in the end of the day, the end of the semester, your grades are going to show up. Your GPA is going to be what it is. If you pass, great. If you don't, you're going to have to either take the shit again, or, you're going to decide that school isn't for you. And then you got to figure your life out from there. But it's a lot of obstacles, a lot of navigating things. But I think, like you said, people kind of learn, okay, this is how I am as a person. This is what works. This is what doesn't work. And just going through that process, I think, is really what kind of I was able to take away from, going through college and finishing. Because like when I got to the end, I was like, yeah, I mean, I appreciated the experience. I didn't, when I was going through it, like it was kind of like, man, like, why am I doing this? This shit is annoying. But then you finish it and you're like, all right, I get it. I needed this. And I think many people need this. Like, yeah, paying tuition sucks, and taking out loans and stuff of that nature. And it's not for everybody. But for those who do this, but for those who do decide to go, I think it is worth the investment most of the time.
Oh yeah, I agree with that for sure. Because I had a way different experience. I didn't have to take out any loans, so I couldn't even imagine how it was for people who did have to take out loans, because that was a whole another thing. And I also worked through college. It depends on how you are as a person, and what you have the means to do. And like you said, it shapes you in many different ways. I feel like college is more about not even the actual education, but like you said, just making those adult decisions and realizing like what works for you, what doesn't. because at the end of the day, the grades are grades, but just learning how to navigate it. So it's like, hey, I have an F. Am I going to pass? Am I going to fail? Can I get help? How do I get help? Where do I go to get help?
Mhm.
How am I going to get the help? It's just stuff like that. And even then, sometimes you can fall short. And that's the
Facts.
worst part about it. But overall, going to college and graduating is hard.
Yeah, facts. It's like
It's
even
hard.
even alternatively, it's like, okay, I tried it this way and this way didn't work. So now let's transition, let's pivot, and let's try to see if something else can. Or is this the
Exactly.
path that I was destined to be on, or am I supposed to be doing something else? Is
Right.
something else necessary, or is it feasible? You have to kind of make those decisions on your own, right? And I think for those type of people, it's like those decisions aren't always that easy. Like for some, they just know straight off, I'm gonna do this path. I'm gonna become an engineer, lawyer, doctor, teacher,
Yep.
and that's just what it is. And I'm gung ho, But then there are others who they get in the fold, and they're just like, well, I thought this way about myself, but I think this kind of makes more sense for me in my future. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's perfectly fine.
Oh yeah. I would, I had some friends that went through that exact same thing. And then I had friends who took longer to get through the process, and at the end of the day, you kind of find your path and what works for you. Sometimes even someone like myself, I graduated and everything, have my whole degree, but not even using it,
Hmm.
at the moment.
Hmm.
And it's just like, now what do you do? Do you figure out a different path? Do you want to go back? It's just like, it can go so many different ways, and trying to, that's something people also don't talk about is the period that happens right after you graduate. You've been in school your whole life. You're just like, okay, now what do I really do? I have to enter in
Hmm.
the workforce. I have no idea what that means to work full time and not go to school at all.
Yeah.
Like, you've been going to school since you was 5 years old. Even some people, even before that, going to pre-K, and then now you're in your 20 somethings and you're completely done with school, and you're just like, okay, I don't know anything else.
Right.
What, and I think that's something that people forget about. It's just like, okay, now what do you do? Now you
Right.
really have to make those adult decisions.
Yeah. And then that's just for people who are just students. Like, I mean, like imagine people who start families or they get married young. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
like for me, like a person like myself, that was bizarre. Like, I'm like, people getting married, like, bro, I ain't even.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of people I knew where it was like, I'm already married, I already got a family, I already have kids, 2 kids. I'm like, hmm. So I mean, just figuring that out, even like now you're responsible for other people's lives,
Oh
if
yeah.
you're an adult now. So I mean, just figuring all that stuff out. But that's part of the journey, which is, part of living, right?
Oh yeah.
All
It
right.
is, and you just go with it. You throw in some sprinkles on top of your cake there, and you're just like, all right, well, this is my situation. We gonna figure it out and keep it
Facts.
moving. Hmm.
So now you finish school, you finish your undergrad, and then now you get into adulting, so you start working again, and eventually, you meet your girlfriend, and then y'all make that move down to NOLA. So I'll talk about how that came about.
Oh man, it was a crazy experience. We ended up meeting my last year of college. And I told myself I would never be in that situation, and I somehow ended up there. And once you get so far deep into something, you just have to make a choice. Okay, am I gonna continue to go through with it, or we're gonna end it off here? And I thought I was gonna end it off, and that didn't go very well.
Mm.
And then I realized, true thoughts, true feelings, and say, okay, well, this is what we're going with. So situation was after so she graduated in December of my senior year,
Mm.
and I didn't graduate until May of the next year. So she decided to move back home.
Mm.
So we went through a big gap period of being long distance for a while. Her living in New Orleans, and I was living in San Antonio until I graduated and then moved back to Houston. And we were long distance for over a year, I want to say. And is when the pandemic first started.
Oof.
So it was very hard to just kind of navigate. This was when you couldn't even take flights to see people. at all. So it was just like, what do we do? And at that point, after a while, we were dating for, I want to say, around a year. And actually almost 2 years, now that I think about it. And we were just like, you know what, if I love you as much as you love me, and we decide we want to continue to go through further with this, I think it would be time for us to move in together. And at first I didn't want to move to New Orleans since my dad's family's from here. And, I really want to stay in Houston because I just know it's just a whole bunch of opportunities out there and not as much here. But with her job and everything, it was going to be really difficult for her to be to Houston. So I ended up finding a job here. And then that's when I was like, you know what? I'm about to make a life move and we about to see how it goes. And, so far, so good, I just use it as an opportunity instead of being like, oh, I don't want to do that. After I graduated, and I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to pursue? At one point, I pursued going to physician assistant school. That ended up not working out. So I was like, all right, I have two options. Either I can do my job, try to get experience in Houston, or try to get experience in New Orleans. So couldn't get hired in Houston and got hired right away down here. So I said, well, let's find a place and move in. So we did it. And now that's been even crazier. Just, finally fully moving in with your partner. That's just a whole different life story in itself. I find myself doing things, then I'm just like, okay, I'm really starting to be an adult for real. Like, I got my own place. I got my own bills. I got to do stuff like clean my place all the time, cook dinner every night, buy groceries, do laundry. I mean, everything I was doing in San Antonio, but it was just a small little square. Doing it for myself plus another person, that's a whole different ball game, and that's a whole different experience in itself. And it was pretty scary at first. I do say when I first moved down here, lucky for me, I wasn't scared because I have family here and everything. I was very comfortable, but, just kind of being isolated with your partner for the first time and really kind of just being like, okay, this is a step up in adult world.
Back.
I was just like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready, and whenever I felt like I was just like, okay, am I ready to leave my family? Like I just got from being in college for so long. So I went through a period of time where I was struggling with my transition because I was just feeling like, am I ready for this? Am I doing the right thing? Do I love this person enough to even be here? I feel like it happened so fast. We ended up making the decision so fast that I was just kind of still unsure about things. And it, ultimately now I'm happy I made the decision. But in the moment, it was a bit scary because I was just like starting to do things I had never done before. I was like, I had to buy a bed, had to buy a mattress. I was just like, oh my gosh, like what? How do you do that? So, those types of purchases and things really kind of put everything into perspective for me, saying like, you're not a kid anymore. You're getting ready to get through with your life and, start having to do things you don't want to do, pay for things you don't want to pay for. You don't just get to have fun and be having like leisure time all the time. So it was an eye-opening experience. Hopefully now looking back, I'll be able to be like, oh, you know what? I'm so happy I went through with that. It caused some crazy thing down the line, hopefully, or, who knows where life will take us. But, at least now I'm very happy with everything. I love my place here. I love the city. And I'm just taking it day by day and seeing where it goes and takes me.
Now, there you go. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's all wonderfully said. I mean, yeah, I think that's like that moment where you realize like you're no longer a kid anymore. Like you are a full-fledged adult in your adulting.
Yes.
I think like the one thing for me that kind of made me realize like bro, you're no longer like, you can't use the kid thing anymore. Like, you are a grown man. It's like,
Uh-huh.
I bought my first car like by myself,
Oh
had to pay
yeah.
for it by myself, and had to pay the thing off. I was like, okay, all right, this is what it feels like to be to be grown and stuff. And like, you get your first job too, and like you said, and it's like you have to actually refer to people as like your colleagues, that like your friends or your co, like, nah, like, I'm your colleague, and like, this is all
Yeah.
professional and shit. And so definitely I think that transition is always, kind of interesting to see for different people, because it's always different moments that kind of makes people turn that switch on, you know what I'm saying? Or like, even like having nephews and having godchildren and having like people who actually look up to you now, instead of you being the person
Mhm.
who looks up to others. All those different things is like, okay, this is part of what it means to be grown, and to have responsibilities. This is crazy.
Oh yeah. I think that we're in a really interesting age, because it's like I don't feel like we're in that age where it's like, okay, we have, well, some people do like full blown family working full time, but I know for you and I, it's a little bit different
Mm.
right now. And like you said, just seeing our transition going from, okay, this is where we were back when, how old were we when we met? Like
What?
11, 12 years old.
Right? God dang, it's crazy.
And seeing us now, it's just like, wow, like we really made that big transition in, seeing how everybody's just plays out just a little bit differently. And you have some people that got kids, and some people work full time, some people are still in school, some people are going to work in school, or some people are pursuing their hobbies or doing whatever. It's just like, we're in that age where still everybody's kind of just like, okay, trying to figure themselves out. And I think it's just like a beautiful thing, because I feel like this is our prime time.
But I see it a little differently from the standpoint of, like, for me, I feel like, at least for myself, like, I don't think I'll hit my prime figuratively, like, probably until I hit my 30s. I think right now, I saw everything is just a matter of planning and trying to
Okay.
build
Mhm.
myself up. You know what I'm saying? Because it's okay. You finally you got through the kiddie stuff. Now you're an adult. Now you got your responsibilities. So now you got to just put your head down and kind of grind, so to speak. And then once you get to a point where it's like, okay, now you figured out who you are, you're comfortable where you're at, and now it's just a matter of building on that. Once you can kind of let go of the take your foot off the gas a little bit, I think then
Mhm.
I could say for myself, at least, like, I'll be in my prime and I can kind of really understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And you kind of get that heightened level of self-security that I think people strive to kind of find.
Yeah, I like that. I've heard people say that, and I definitely agree with that as well. Like, because you're more secure in your life. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. You got a lot more money than you did when you was teenager or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You doing things truly for you, and you don't have to. Most people don't have to stress about certain things as much.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, I'm looking forward to that time as well, because I think that once you hit your 30s, I feel like you start to see the world a little bit differently.
Oh, for
And I'm
sure.
excited for that part. I'm still also kind of just like, wow, like we are getting close to that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's kind
right.
of scary to think about, but because I'm like, I don't know about you, but when I feel like when I think of my age and I'm like, okay, I'm 24, I'm just like, I don't even understand what it means to be 24.
Yeah.
Like, you know how some people be like, oh, like by the time I'm 25, I want to be married and have a baby. And I'm just like, I'm 24 and I don't have nothing in that realm at all.
You're
Like,
not thinking that you're not thinking of starting a family and having some youngins. You're not thinking about that yet.
I do want some little babies running around. I don't think I'm mentally ready for it at the moment. Kudos to people that have kids already right now. I think I have to focus on myself a little bit more
Yeah.
before I'm ready to take on. And like you said, I want to be a little bit more stable and self-secure before I try to bring little humans into this world, because I want to make sure that I can give them the best life possible, you know.
Facts. Uh,
So
for
that's
sure.
what I'm striving for sure. I definitely do want a family. How about yourself?
Yeah, that's down the line. Of course, want to have a wife and kids and do it the right way. But just try to be diligent as far as making sure I'm ready to take care of
Mhm.
other people, making sure I can bring a life into this world and I can give it, all the tools that it need, give them all the tools that they need to be able to navigate life as best they can. Obviously, there are going to be obstacles, but hopefully I'll be at a point where I'll be able to kind of help them, in with anything that they have questions about, daughter or son. And just with my spouse, my future spouse, when that time comes around, hopefully, I'll pick a person who I can build a life with, and I can just do it once, and that'd be what it is, and we just build a family. So yeah, that's in the cards, but that's down the line for me. We'll see what happens though. Things don't usually go according to plan, so I just try to be ready for whatever happens.
I love that. I think that that's very mature of you. A lot of times people don't think of it like that, and they just, life happens and things happen so fast, but if you're able to sit back and say, okay, I love that mindset, being like, okay, I am ready to bring someone in this world. I'm prepared to give it as best, give them the best life possible. And I love that, because I think a lot of people don't even realize that, around our age,
Mm,
and especially like with the economy changing and everything. And I feel like it's a lot harder to take care of yourself, not only yourself but other people. Stuff's getting a lot harder to do. Buying a house is harder, finding good or better jobs are harder. So, to have that sense of maturity and be like, you know what, I need to get me together first and then we can have a baby, versus the other way around.
right.
I think that that speaks volumes, if you can do that. Sometimes it don't happen that way. Like you said, life happens and nothing's wrong with that. But if you can do that, I think that's amazing for sure.
Facts. So just wrapping up and getting towards the final stretch, we're gonna finish off with some quick hitters. So just if you had three key lessons or three key things that you live by in life, what would they be?
Oh man, that is a
Oh
that
yeah.
is a strong one. Um, let's see here. Well, number one, take everything as an opportunity, whatever it may be, because that will get you pretty far in life. Instead of dwelling on things that you wish you had, just take an opportunity to go a step in a different direction.
Mm,
Two, you have to put yourself first. If you can't be good, then you helping someone else or anything down the line, it's just going to be a domino effect. You got to take care of you first, that whether that be your mental health, physical health, anything that you can do to make yourself better so that you can make other people better. I'm all for that.
mm,
And the third one, oh man, I would just say, just be you. I know, and that's so cliche, but I feel like in a time now where we have so much social media and things like Instagram and TikTok, a lot of times people really lose their sense of self and they really want to be who people are online, but people just forget that that's just a persona. That's not real. They
yeah.
have Photoshop, they have all kinds of things that people want to strive for, and it's not even real. You can't even tell the difference nowadays. Stuff is getting too hard to differentiate, especially with influencers being a big thing now. I find myself a lot of times, if I'm scrolling on Instagram or whatever, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that. And it's
Mm,
just like, you don't know if that's real or fake. You don't know that person's life. I've seen things where stuff, for example, like in the fashion industry, where people are posting all these outfits and stuff, and then the same influencers are coming back and saying, I would never wear that in real life. That was just for a picture,
hmm.
and it just, stuff like that opens my eyes, and I'm like, you know what? This is not real. You have to make your own reality and what works for you. Stop trying to compare yourself to other people and just be, honestly, you have to be yourself.
There you go.
And that's really it. That's what I
Nah,
live by.
yeah, that
What
is
about
nice.
yourself?
That's facts. That's facts. Because it's very easy to look online and think that a person has a better life than you because they're posting the highlight tapes.
Yep.
For me, I mean, what three things that I live by? I mean, it's just a matter of be authentic,
I like that.
always look to grow, and shit, it really just protect your peace, your empire, and your seat at all costs. This is all it is. Like, just protect you and your person and what you're building above anything else, and don't let anybody try to corrupt you. Nobody try to change you for the worse.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right, second one. If you could travel or move to another city outside from Houston, New Orleans, or Alabama, where would you move to next?
Colorado.
Why? I want to know this. Why?
I know
Why?
that's crazy. But last year or last January, oh wow, it was a year ago. So last year I went to Colorado for the first time, and I was on there for like 3 days. And when I tell you it changed my whole life, like I just was in awe. I thought being in the snow and just being in the cold winter, like actually snowy weather, like where it was like 17 degrees up there, I was just like, okay, this is different, and I'm ready to just do something crazy with my life. I would definitely go out there for like a year and just experience like living in the mountains. I think that would be so cool. I learned how to snowboard for the first time, and I just was like, oh my God, this is the most funnest thing ever.
Nothing
I
like
had
that
met so
Houston
many
humidity, and nothing like that heat down here.
Yeah, you that heat is killer, but then you get out there in the snow and you have on 4 layers of clothes and you're still cold.
Right.
That's also a different thing. So I would move out there. It would be an experience. And I'm now at my age, I'm just starting to live for experiences and just, I don't know, see how it goes.
Yeah, you gotta live life and experience things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, final question. Drop your last gem. So anybody listening, any young man and young woman, any person, who's listening to what you're saying, what would be the last thing you would tell anybody as far as living their lives?
Oh, that's tough. Um, my last gem is do whatever makes you happy.
Mm.
Your perception is your reality. So however you see things, however you see life, you got to roll with it that way. And
Back.
don't worry about how other people see you, because you got to be able to see yourself in a bigger light.
That's fact. Ooh, okay, that was a bar. So
Oh, there
well, there you go. I like that.
yeah.
I love that though. But that's a wrap for Insight Podcast. Want to thank guest Jessica Leonard for coming on and giving her time. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Michael Obi. Appreciate you.
Most definitely. You can catch this episode on all your listening platforms as well as YouTube and the Anchor.fm platform. Much love.